We just came from a very emotional levaya. Our community lost a pillar, a great rabbi, someone who hid himself in Pashtut. We couldn't possibly grasp how great he is because he wouldn't let us. He hid himself with such brilliance that even if you tried to grasp how great he was, it would be impossible. He wouldn't let you. You tried to give him kavod, he wouldn't let you. You tried to honor him in any which way, he'd run away. He specifically went out of his way to keep the Pashtut and make a statement. While everybody else was driving around in $100,000 cars, he was riding on a bicycle. And he laughed at us. He laughed at us. He looked at us. As if to say, don't you remember who you are? Are you really falling for all this? The whole smoke and mirrors of America? All the materialism? Don't you remember where you came from? Don't you remember what was real? What life was about? And he was the standing marshal that reminded us of what the old country once looked like. It's amazing to me to be able to lose one man and we lost the whole world. Because he was that world. And by losing him, we lost that whole world. He was the mohel for everybody you've seen in the community. Could you imagine? He was the mohel for everybody. He was the Kohen by every pidyon habed. He was the Kohen. He was the mohel. He was the Kohen. He was the shochet. He was the everything. He was literally an Abba to the people. Tonight you walked in a swarm of people. Mamash, the crowds didn't stop coming. The entire community came out to stand with one rabbi because he was a rabbi of the people. That's why the people loved him. Because he loved them. And they knew it. And to him it made no difference if somebody was religious, wasn't religious. It made no difference. You saw the love. You call him and you'd ask him to come to your house. He would come. He would come with his chickens. He would come with his keves in the backyard. He would sit in your house. You'd bring him a cup of tea. He would sit like the grandfather in the house. Everyone who was like his children. And boy, did he know the secret of how to camouflage. He would sit and talk to you smiling. He would make you laugh. And while he's talking to you, he had his hand on your head. And that hand was so heavy, I'm telling you. That hand was so heavy. He was strong. He was physically an ox. He was strong. When he put his hand on your head, your whole head went down. But while he was putting the weight on your head, he was taking the weight off your shoulders. There was nobody that knew the secret of how to unburden people with their problems like Chacham Eli Kalifa, Zechet Tzadik Libracha. Everybody came with problems. And to everybody, he smiled, he made them laugh, and he told them, it's going to be okay. Yeh beseder. It's okay. Yeh beseder. Everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. And while he's talking to the person, and while he's unbridling them from their hurt and their pain and their problems and their difficulties, he puts his hand on your head and he starts saying, and we don't know what he was saying, whatever he was talking to Shammai, I don't know what he was saying. And he'd give berachot and he would do tikkunim for people. Who do we have left that can do such things? Who? Who can bring tikkunim to people? Who knew how to take ayin hara off of families? Who knew how to be able to take the problems of people on his own shoulders? The reason why you saw thousands of people out there tonight walking behind Chacham Eli is because they understood we didn't just lose a rabbi. We lost a father. He was like a father to everybody. They loved him and he loved them. You can't replace somebody like that. And what he knew, Not too many people know. He was Mikubal, Sadiq. And boy, did he hide himself. Sometimes he would tell people certain things, and now you'll see. Now the stories are going to start coming out. Now. Because Chacham Eli ran away from Kavod. But now, Chacham, you can't run anymore. And now it catches up to you. And now the people are going to start crying and woeing and bemoaning the loss by telling over the stories of his legacy, of his life. And you're going to hear unbelievable stories, and you're going to say, what? We had someone like that amongst us, riding up and down Ocean Parkway on a bicycle. Why didn't I take advantage? Why didn't I spend more time with him? Why didn't I go to him more? Why didn't I see him more? Why didn't I talk to him more? Yeah. We don't appreciate what we have until we no longer have it. We don't appreciate what we have until we no longer have it. It's like this by all the Gedolim, all the Tzaddikim. Goes, man, they're still with us. We think they're part of the wallpaper of life. We think they'll always be there. And especially Chacham Eli, because he was strong, he was a Gibor. And then he was so soft and so loving. And what he did for the Aniyim, people don't know, they have no idea. What he did for the Aniyim, people have no idea. He would go to the slaughterhouses. When he walked into the room with the sheep, they knew him. They all ran. They saw him. They knew what was coming. In a matter of minutes, shecht, cut up, package, jump back into the car with a few guys, come back and say, we have to give this meat out to the Aniyim. Rabbi, where, who? Come, I'll show you which houses. He'll show you this house, this person in the basement needs. Do you know he did this? Rabbi, how should I do it? Should I knock on the door and give the person the meat? He said, no. Hype. You can embarrass the person? No way. He just put it on the handle, knock, and run. Come back quick to the car. That's what he told people. He would give out food to Aniyim. But he also stood. He stood for something that the old country had, a purity of what a Rav once was, in humility, humble, anav, she'en kamahu. He was the anav, unbelievable. Unbelievable. There was once a time where they used to measure greatness by smallness. The smaller you made yourself, the greater we realize who this person really is. The smaller they made themselves. Unbelievable. And he made himself so tsanua, so hidden. And in that we saw how giant of a tzaddik he was that we had no clue. It's in his merit that I'd like to give tonight's class. Leilu Nishmat, Chacham Eli Kalifa, Ben Shafia, Zechet Tzadik L'Bracha, Zchuto Yagen Aleinu, Sheyamlitz Ba'adeinu, should be a Melitz Yoshen on Shamayim for all of us. The way he was so close to us down here, the way he cared for us down here, he should do even more for us in the next world. Tzadikim in the next world, B'mitatan Nikraim Hayim, because they can do more in the next world than they were able to do in this world. And if he was so dedicated to such a beautiful community of people, his children, how much more is he going to do now in Shamayim? It's unbelievable. Tonight I want to talk about the Gadlut of Torah. Tonight I want to talk about the Gadlut of Talmidei Chachamim. L'chvod Chacham Eli, who loved Talmidei Chachamim. Loved. He was Mokir Talmidei Chachamim. He loved Talmidei Chachamim. He loved Torah. He loved the teachers of Torah. I was lucky enough to teach his grandson in high school for 2 years. Shahino, his grandson. His daughter's son. And he used to meet me in the street. And he used to tell me, oh, Rabbi Duvi. He used to tell me, thank you. My grandson loves you. He learns Torah by you. He had such hakarat hatov. He had such hakarat hatov. He had such good. He gave over such good. He loved Torah. He loved the ones that taught Torah, the teachers of Torah. It's unbelievable. How did we lose somebody this big? And it was a shock. We didn't see this one coming. Tonight I want to give a share on the gadlut of Torah and the learners of Torah.